Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Oh, we're recording. Okay, that happened fast. Welcome to Paranormal Karen. I am having technical and audio issues all over the place. I can't tell you guys every printer, everything. So I had some trouble with my Zoom. But today we are recording, and I am here with Ryan Marquardt. I got it right, didn't I?
Yes.
Okay. Ryan Marquardt. And now I'm going to say it all through the whole thing since I got it right, because I never get anyone's right, and I usually offend them before the show even begins. Ryan is an astrologer, and he gave me a fantastic chart reading. But here's what I want to say before I even talk to him. I don't know if anyone else does it this way, but Ryan, you did it over Zoom, and I got to see the chart, and you got to move things around, and I just thought that was fantastic. Does everybody do it that way, or was that your idea?
It was a pandemic-induced idea, really. I was always doing it in person prior to COVID. And I think a lot of astrologers have adjusted in this way, or a lot of them like to do pre-recorded readings and they'll just send an audio file. But I think the visual helps so much.
I loved it. And one of the things that you and I got talking about, well, first of all, tell us, how did you get into astrology?
Oh my gosh, it's a long story, but I mean, I've kind of always been interested in it, in space, and had this like galactic mindset, I guess. But it was I think 2018 is where I really realized I can make this a profession, that it's not just me exploring my own self and self-awareness, but that I can actually help other people with it too. I met an astrologer whose name I can't reveal because we've fallen out of touch, and I haven't. I need to get back in touch with him, frankly, and say like thank you for like setting me off on this path. But I kind of want to okay that through him first. I need to reconnect.
Sure.
But yeah, so he is brilliant and local, and I had a totally serendipitous run-in with him essentially, and just in one afternoon, he completely changed the trajectory of my life. So, and it was shortly, after my Saturn Return, which is when a lot of astrologers come into astrology and realize they want to do this professionally. So that definitely happened to me. Yep. And so I kept trying to, I used to be a publicist for 10 years and kept trying to do the PR thing and thought that was really the logical approach. But as I kept squeezing myself into that role that I had been playing for so long, that was clearly not right for me. It just kept failing on me. And the universe just worked out in a way where it was like, God, everybody kept pushing me to do astrology because I was just doing so many readings for my friends and going to parties and doing readings, and I was like, yeah, this is it. So 2019 is when I started professionally.
Much
and not
better.
full-time.
Much better than trying to push movies or whatever that publicists. Much better, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. And like, it's the change you see in your individual clients in astrology is so much better and more meaningful than the change you can make as a publicist for some company.
Yes, I have a great friend and a publicist, and she loves it. She's made for it. I have two that do so well, and they do great at it. But yeah, I personally would go the astrology route, and just she knows that. I've had meetings with her, and I was like, I love you so much, but I can't do this. And she was like, you're not the first mystic that couldn't do meetings.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's a little hard because what a publicist does is so detailed, and I just am not about that. So, all right. So we're going to get starting with two things right off the bat, because when you gave me my reading, the first thing that happened was we started talking about rising signs, and I have really started to believe are they more important than sun signs? Tell us why we think our sun signs are so important.
Oh, it's such a contentious debate. So many astrologers will like hate me for taking this stance, but I think we overdo it on the sun signs. I mean, so much of astrology is as above, so below, kind of the big motto here. So, as above, meaning the planetary bodies above us, and the sun keeps everything healthy and alive. Without it, we wouldn't exist. So it's important, and you have to feed the sun sign. It's healthy. I personally identify more with my sun sign, but that's what sun is. It's identity and ego. But your rising is it's the sign that was rising in the east at the moment you were born. And it's like this entry point for your soul. So while I'm a Gemini sun, I have an Aquarius rising. My soul kind of flew into Earth in an Aquarian manner. And now I've got this Aquarian energetic bubble around me, and it will never go away. As above, so below, the sun gets overcast or it goes away at night. And sometimes we feel dim ourselves and we don't align with our sun sign, or we read a sun sign horoscope and we feel like it's too general or it doesn't apply to us. The rising sign is how you show up. It's how you dawn, just like the sun on the eastern horizon. It's how you dawn every moment. So you never go without the rising sign, and understanding it and its importance, its pitfalls, but also its strengths for you, really enhances how you're able to just maneuver through life on a day-to-day basis. And it's much more date specific because of that. So people tend to read their horoscopes wrong, even if they know their rising sign, which so many people do now. They don't realize that the rising sign is the horoscope you should actually read first if you're looking for what to expect. And then you would want to read the sun sign second, because that will give more of an idea of how to integrate the energies or events that you can expect based on the rising sign.
So
does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I was just sitting and wondering, so would you, this is I know these are not really the real deal, but let's say you're in the newspaper and they list the 12 signs and would you do it that way? I would be, my rising is Gemini. So I would read the Gemini and then the Leo. So does that, because I always have these little apps in my phone that are astrology apps, and I think they are pointed towards Leo. Because I wonder if I can, maybe I can take a look and see, because I was thinking, how do I adjust that to go towards the rising sign? I wonder, does it have a thing, or I guess you would know that since you can't see it.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. It's just, I think any horoscope you're reading, you're always going to want to know what your rising sign is and read that sign first.
Okay.
Basically.
It's funny because is today, we're taping this today. It's going to be out in September. Today is Lion's Gate, right?
Oh, tomorrow. 8/8 tomorrow.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's all in Leo, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So as of
the dog days of summer.
Yes, right now, my sun, moon, and Mercury are all in Leo.
Yeah.
So that should be a big day tomorrow of, I don't know, being a Leo. I'll be very Leo.
Yeah. I think, yeah, that's more of a galactic energy. It doesn't really have an astrological basis, to be honest. But there's power in collective thought, and so many people love to talk about the Lion's Gate as this energetic portal. And so I do think that it manifests itself in certain ways for different people.
Good. Now, the Saturn return. I know there's a lot of things. Nothing's probably all negative, but you pointed that out right away. What is a Saturn return?
So Saturn takes about 29 and a half years to cycle through the whole zodiac. And Saturn teaches us responsibility, authority, commitment, and it's hard times. The sort of idea with Saturn is that it's, for thousands of years, it was the farthest out planet that we could see in the solar system prior to just a couple hundred years ago when we found Uranus and Neptune and Pluto. And so it represented the limits of everything. And there's a hardness to that. And so Saturn's kind of function is to bring things into form in the material world. So it's like if you have this idea, I'm going to write a book, and then you write a book and it gets published and it's a physical form. Saturn kind of makes that process happen. It's like without Saturn, we'd all just be energy floating around the universe, you know? And so it is hard. It creates a concrete, tangible issue in your life, typically. And it's a point of maturity. Like, I don't think 18 or 21 or these arbitrary dates we've assigned are actually points of maturity. I think it's the Saturn return. That's when a lot of people are faced with a serious challenge, and Saturn's a big planet of karma, and you kind of karmically have to face what's going on and deal with it. And through that maturation, you come into your own and you feel so much more secure with yourself and your confidence in the world. And you realize, I've got a sense of autonomy and authority myself that you now get to assert.
So Saturn return is just hard to face things, but it's not bad.
It can be bad. Mine was a doozy. It kind of depends where it's at. I think like the first house, fourth, seventh, and 10th houses, which is the house of self, home, and then relationships and career. Those are the most difficult ones I tend to see.
That's everything.
Yeah. It's this like cross of manifestation in the birth chart. And if you've got Saturn there, you can kind of expect a seriously physical, real world difficulty. A lot of people who are married, when their Saturn return comes up, if it's in the 7th house, they'll often get divorced or deal with a really big issue with their partner.
Oh boy.
Mine, kind of depending on the system you use, mine was like 10th house. So it was career. And that was when I changed careers.
And that was probably, was that hard? Because it sounds scary.
Oh God, it was difficult.
Really?
Oh my God. I got laid off twice in a row, and I'm a Gemini, so things just happen to me twice all the time. But yeah, I got laid off unexpectedly, and I, thought I was going to be some badass publicist with my life, and I had just moved to LA and was like so ready for that life. And getting laid off was the biggest ego hit to me. And then I went on unemployment, and then I ran out of unemployment, and then I had to find another job, and I knew that it was not for me. It was in PR. And go figure, I got laid off again, went on unemployment again, ran out of it again. Like, it was just hell. It totally like rained on my finances, like everything.
Just, now, and you were astrologer at that time?
Yeah, I was I was transitioning. Like, I don't think anybody really just kind of pops into being an astrologer. It really takes a few years of,
I love that transitioning astrologer. Yeah. So you were you looking at your chart, and were you like, oh, I'm in the Saturn return, or it didn't all click just back then?
Oh yeah, I was aware of it and still ignored it. I approach everything so skeptically. So I don't know, I'm very reluctant with this stuff. I'm really still coming to terms with the fact that, like, fuck, I'm an astrologer. Oh, can I say that?
Sure. It's so funny because I'll drop a name. So at the Flappers, the comedy club, and Jay Leno's there all the time, and his wife is there, and his wife is amazing, and she started out doing astrology charts, and she always says, I don't know what I was doing, but it was always right. And she must be incredibly intuitive, but she was like on the nose. And I feel like astrology does that in a way. I would love to learn astrology. I don't have the patience, but you have to learn over years, right? And interpret and just memorize. It's just not easy. That's why astrologers, that's the one though. I always feel like if you're talking about dates, that's the one. If you want to know when, astrology is what you want to look at.
Absolutely. Yes. And I think it's just the benefit really is, aside from knowing your birth chart, it's about learning what's coming up, and just preparedness is such a huge benefit of astrology.
preparedness is getting to be a very important word lately.
Oof, it is.
Yeah, because I think, well, we're going to talk about the United States chart soon enough, but just on a general vibe, I think we're probably 1 to 2 years into a very, very hard 7 years for the country. And maybe our country is in its Saturn return. I can't wait to hear. But and what style of astrology do you do?
Well, I am a hardcore Gemini. I got so many planets in Gemini, so I pull from anything I can get my hands on. And that is a bit of an existential dilemma that I have, but I just kind of formulate my own perspective with it, which I think every astrologer does, but I don't adhere to anything. I really kind of got into it in the evolutionary astrology perspective, which is a lot about the soul's path on Earth and a lot of reincarnation themes. But I'm obsessed with ancient Hellenistic astrology. I like horary astrology, which is a bit more predictive, I guess. So I pull from a bunch of stuff.
Wow. I haven't even heard of either of those. I know Vedic, and that could be it.
Yeah, Vedic, I don't really adhere to much. I'm interested, but I need to learn more about it. It just fundamentally changes placements.
Yes, it's also when they do Vedic, you have a different sign. Or it's in a different something. It can be. Mine stayed the same. My Leo stayed the same. But also, there's a lot of foreign words that I don't understand.
Yeah, like there's these things called nakshatras, which are lunar mansions, which is hard to explain. I won't even get into it, but that's a cool thing that I really want to start incorporating. Actually, is the idea of nakshatras. But otherwise, it's difficult, and it can be really fatalistic. I try to stay optimistic about things, and not be so black and white with astrology. I think there are so many paths and options open to you when you really dig into it. And so,
yes. Well, there was the astrologer that I used to watch, who I won't say her name, and she was a Vedic astrologer, and she would get. There's two that I don't really watch her quite anymore because she's been way off this year. And I don't mean her. I mean, I wonder, I don't know if timelines are changing or what, because I know I'll go back to her. But right now, she's not knocking it out of the park. But like last year, she was to the date and time. She was right on. So I don't know if that is the charts or maybe she's having an off day. But there's a guy also that I love on YouTube named K. Pachi, and he does the Pele Report. And he's you would love him just because he's a very upbeat guy, and he's always trying to present the best. And
good.
But he also, in the beginning, you astrologers know so much that you kind of it's like both of them on YouTube, the first 10 minutes where they're talking about placements and stuff. I just wait for the other part where they're going to tell me how I'm going to feel. Because it's confusing. But
it's so confusing. Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't know, it's unbelievably confusing. But that was the reading you gave me. You were like, watch out on this date. And then you were like, wow, once you hit 56, which I will be by the time this comes out, you were like, it's going to just smooth or get, it was optimistic, but not without its warnings. It was really great. So.
Good. Yay. Yeah. You got a really nice moment in the spotlight coming up here over the next couple of years.
That's what I needed. Okay, folks, hang on 1 second. We'll be right back. Buddy, I just wanted to let you know about some upcoming comedy dates. You can see me August 26th at Flappers in Burbank doing my psychic stand-up show, my favorite show ever. 9/11, you can see me in San Juan Capistrano at the Camino Real Playhouse. You can see me in Decatur, Illinois. Is it Illinois or Indiana? If you live there, you should know. 9/17, September 17th, doing Dry Bar Comedy Live. You can look for tickets at Dry Bar Comedy Live online. The 24th, you can see me at Wise Guys in Ogden, Utah. And on the 25th, you can see me in Provo, Utah, taping my next Dry Bar special. Again, back at Flappers on September 30th, doing the psychic stand-up show. And the big deal, October 28th, 28th through the 31st. You can see me the 28th, 29th, and 30th doing my big Halloween show at Rosemont Zanies in Rosemont, Illinois, right outside of Chicago. And on the 31st, you can see me at Zanies in Chicago doing the same Halloween show. All right, everybody, hope to see you on the road. I'm having technical troubles with everything. So basically, after every break, you'll hear me either swear or go, all right, finally. That's how it's going. Okay, now this fascinates me. Tell me about what's happening to the United States. Or the world.
I mean, like, yeah, well, the U.S. is really just going through it right now. Obviously, COVID has hit on a global scale. That was massive. It was something we had never seen before. A huge pileup of planets in Capricorn, essentially, and we're still dealing with many of the ramifications of that. With the U.S. specifically, we are in the early stages of the Pluto return, which Pluto moves so slowly. It takes 246 years to go through the zodiac. So the United States has never experienced a Pluto return before. If you look back at older countries, it coincides with major changes in regimes and power structures, fall of the Roman Empire, Great Britain dealing with a bunch of stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of things that it brings because Pluto is destruction. Whatever it's touching, it's trying to change permanently. Mythologically, Pluto is Hades, lord of the underworld. So it's bringing up a lot of deep, buried stuff that we are often embarrassed of, humiliated by, and do not want to confront.
Wow. I'm going to step back 1 second when COVID hit, we had a whole bunch of, everything was in Capricorn. Capricorn is, let me see. Capricorn, is that business? Is that government? Is it structure? What is Capricorn?
Oof. All of the above. It is everything that holds us up on a collective end. It's everything that holds us up as a society. All the institution of marriage, big, government, big business, Wall Street, all these huge things that we rely on as a collective. And Pluto is basically showing us what's not working right now with the COVID hit, which was technically January 12th, 2020 is when things were exact. Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, the South Node, and some other planets were all together. And it had never before been seen, but many astrologers kind of predicted COVID.
Yes, they did. I got so angry at this stupid science comic that kept saying, well, if the astrologers and psychics saw it, why didn't they say it? And I was like, I did not see as an astrologer or a psychic that missed COVID. It's like, who are you?
Exactly. Exactly. There was even the New York Times story that came out and was like, astrology is like at a crisis point now because astrologers didn't predict COVID. And it's like, this is a New York Times journalist. What kind of research are you doing? Because many people predicted this.
Everyone had it. It makes me crazy. Okay. So that was Capricorn all backed up. What house was it in, or was it all over the place?
It depends on what chart you use for the United States. This is also a debate among astrologers. I think the main one people use is called the Sibley chart, which was the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So Philadelphia on July 4th, 1776 at around 5:10 p.m.
Right.
That gives us a Sagittarius rising. So that means Sagittarius rules the United States' first house, which is identity, which Sagittarius has a lot to do with long distance. So go figure, we're always in international affairs and meddling with other people's stuff. But Capricorn then, following Sagittarius, rules our second house. The second house has a lot to do with basic needs and resources, money. So clearly we've seen mass destruction in that area of life. So many people's safety feels threatened right now still. Mm-hmm. These basic needs are not being met. The eviction issues are just so widespread. And the kind of quote unquote plague, which played out as coronavirus. Is Jupiter and Pluto, whenever they meet up, it pretty much indicates a wipeout of life.
Wow.
There's a lot with that specific transit. But on top of that, we had Saturn there. And Saturn's lockdowns, its restrictions. So we had that element to this plague. And we're still dealing with it, quite frankly. I don't know when it'll be done. Predicting an end to COVID for me is difficult because I think we're just going to be dealing with mutations for quite some time. Neptune's really involved in the next couple of years of the United States' astrology. And Neptune is a shapeshifter. So I do see this kind of morphing and changing and evolving, but not really going away. And again, with collective thought power, it's like, this is ingrained in our brains. We're never going to forget about this. And we're always going to be scared of it. And Pluto is fear. So,
well, that I will predict. I think it's 2023 when this disappears, when we don't see it anymore, or it's just a regular flu, when it's just a thing. And this is a weird way to say it, but I think so I'm getting really aggravated with the numbers in the government, because I think if they wanted us to know things, they would give us COVID-1 is asymptomatic, COVID-2 is sick, but you can stay home, and COVID-3 is hospitalization, possible death. And if we had those percentages and those numbers, we might feel quite differently. But what I'm wondering, and this is just I'm just shooting this out there, if you don't get trouble with COVID-1, if COVID-1 doesn't kill you, I wonder if the variants will be less, because they don't. This is what I don't understand. Well, now I'm getting very COVID-ish, and this could be decided by the time I go home. There's no way to test that you have Delta. So I don't know how that's a variant if we don't know how to test for it or something. Okay, I'm sorry, I got way off. So Neptune, the shapeshifter, is around for a while.
Yeah, we're dealing with some really unfortunate Neptunian matters. Basically, Neptune is going to be opposing the United States' natal Neptune. This is like the last time that this happened was 1857 to 1859. Okay. So this was like slavery was in full effect. And the North versus the South was huge. It was basically leading up to the start of the American Civil War. So Neptune does have a lot of war energy to it as well. And it was also one of the first worldwide economic crises. I mean, the New York banks closed for months at that time. Wow. So Neptune is really huge in our chart. And unfortunately, Neptune squares the United States' Mars placement. And that a square is a really tense aspect. Things just not getting along. And Mars is the planet of war technically. But just the way it plays out for the United States, it has a lot to do with Neptune as well. Anytime there's a Neptune transit in the United States' chart, Mars is going to get activated. And there's this other kind of theoretical point in the universe called Lilith, which is like the dark side of the moon, sort of. And
I love Lilith. My Lilith is in there.
Oh, good.
Okay, go ahead.
No, yeah, Lilith. No, you're totally
just
fine.
Rooting on Lilith. I think it's a great story. I love the story. The first wife that no one talks about.
Oh yeah, and like astrologically, it's the farthest point of the moon's orbit around the Earth. So it's not a planet, but it's got this really dark undertone to it, and it kind of has a primitive nature and an impulsivity to it. And our Lilith for the United States is conjunct the United States' Neptune. So these two things play hand in hand. And Lilith has had this really bizarre connection to war for us. So with the 2003 Iraq War, Lilith and Pluto were talking. the 1991 Iraq War, even Lilith, the transiting Lilith was in a square with the United States' natal Lilith, and that was pretty difficult. The Vietnam War had a Lilith issue.
Wow.
Pearl Harbor. I mean, there's so many war matters with Lilith, but we also have this Neptune issue that tends to bring about mass panic. And mass confusion. Neptune's like a fog, and we can't see clearly. So whatever's going on, it's like the data feels off, or like the rules. Like what are we dealing with? What are our resources that we have at our disposal, and where are our priorities? Like,
and we're so in that now. We're in that now.
We are totally in that now.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to be a big theme, 2022 to 2023. That's where I'm like, I hope you're right. The COVID's going away, but by 2023, but 2023 in general for the US is so tumultuous. There's a lot going on.
Really?
Pluto is still, technically the exact Pluto return is the first one is in February of 2022. So we're still leading up to it. We haven't even really tasted it. I mean, we're tasting it, but it's we're gonna get like the main course. And February, July, and December of 2022 is when Pluto is returning, because Pluto goes retrograde and it moves so slowly. So it'll be doing it throughout 2022 and throughout 2023, January, September, and October of 2023. We're dealing with this.
Wow. So yeah. I got to recap that for a second. And first of all, say, I love how you do that, how you presented this terrible future as though it was a meal, and we're having our appetizer.
Because we keep going, there's a way forward. There are hopeful things occurring simultaneously that indicate we'll have our gaze on the future, and the dessert.
Yes, this gives me actually what I find really interesting about this, and it kind of gives me hope, is I feel like everybody feels like this. Should I be moving right now? Should I be somewhere else? Some people are even like, do I need to get out of the country? Is that not going to help? And I think knowing 2022, wow, that's not that far away, is it?
Nope.
I was like, I got plenty of time to move. And now I'm like, wait a minute. By the time this comes out, I better be gone. No,
Are you planning on leaving LA? So many people in this line of work, I feel like, have just had a mass exodus from the Los Angeles area.
I don't want to, because I love comedy, and comedy is great here. I don't care what anyone says. Comedy is great here. But if things keep shutting down, it's really expensive to live here. And
for sure.
If there is, I can't imagine this country having a civil, like, the country's so big that a civil war would be a very strange thing. I can't imagine I couldn't get back to the East to see my parents, or move there, or I guess I could do comedy in New York, or, I don't know, something makes me also think, just go to Mexico. People love Mexico. Americans love Mexico. But I feel, I don't feel myself going anywhere, but I do. The thought crosses my mind, and I always think, well, what would be the thing where you would just get in your car and go? And I don't know what that is.
Same. I don't have this desire to leave LA like everybody else is. For some reason, I'm just like anchored here right now. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, maybe we're supposed to hold the light in LA.
I hope so. I really think so. There's such an energy here that you can't really get elsewhere, I think. So
yeah. Okay, so we have all that shape shifting, and so it does. Which one looks more like it's going to happen? A civil war or a regular war, or both?
I would honestly say a civil war versus a regular old war. I think that, the nature of the Pluto return is that we are coming down on the global scale, which does make us more vulnerable to other countries, I guess. Right. But I think more than anything, it's just that we have a serious need to retreat and consider the lives of the people here, versus getting too involved in external affairs. I feel like the Civil War is more likely. We've had good number of war aspects, though, pop up, including around the insurrection and on January 6th. But, nothing really broke out. Even Trump threatening to bomb Iran, like that was a war signature, and it didn't happen. So it feels like we kind of keep getting saved in these really bizarre ways, and thank God, I guess. But I'm sort of eyeing the first couple months of 2023. That's where things are weird because Pluto is still returning. We're still dealing with this Neptune opposition, but also Saturn, which is government figures, people in power, and restrictions, lockdowns. It's going to be on the United States' moon. And the moon is so important in the US chart because the United States is a Cancer, and the moon rules Cancer, home, safety, and nurturing.
Emotions,
and the
right?
family unit. Yeah. And so, we have Venus, Jupiter, the Sun, and Mercury in Cancer in the US chart. All of those planets are ruled by the moon placement, and the moon's in Aquarius in the US chart. So February 12th, specifically of 2023, is when Saturn's going to hit the moon. And that is not a fun time. Like when you deal with that in your personal birth chart, you're really going through some tough emotional aspects. And the moon in Aquarius in the US chart, the moon doesn't actually love Aquarius because Aquarius is so distanced from emotion, kind of callous and cold. So we're going to be dealing with a serious issue that's affecting the moon in Aquarius, which is very we the people energy. And the way I'm seeing this play out is sort of like a culmination of cancel culture. I know that sounds so weird, but I feel like it feels like the Saturn's coming around, Pluto's returning and still bringing secrets to the surface. And Neptune is a lot of delusion. And so I think we're going to realize Saturn is realization. I think we're going to realize as a people that there are leaders in the government or in our institutions that are being held accountable or need to be held accountable for their bad behaviors, and things are kind of coming out. And at the same time, the nodes, the South Node and the North Node, which is like our life purpose and the direction where we're evolving, the nodal axis is going to be at a perfect square to the United States' birth nodes, basically, which what this means, when things square the nodes, it's like a missed step or something was skipped over. And all of this happening at once is really like the people realizing very tangibly that we fundamentally skipped over something and we need to do better as a people. And I feel like we will band together in many ways, yet it does feel like the Neptune opposition, it could create some sort of civil war at the same time, war with resources.
That's what I think the government will do to us. And you said February 2nd, right? I'm going to kind of
February 12th through February 18th, that time frame of 2023. Crazy.
I'm going to go out on
really
a limb.
Wild.
Yes, and because people are talking about saving food and stuff like that, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you need to have what you're going to need by January. Like I said, the way our country's built, I don't think we could. I can't imagine a civil war being bad because it's so spread out, because the country's so large. Could be pockets, but that part about public figures being held accountable, I'm there. I've had some really big news wake ups this year, and it's quite. I have to tell people. I'll say it this way, because I'm all left. I'm all Democrat, but I have come to the conclusion this year that those Democrats are not working for us at all. And hate Trump, love Trump, whatever. I don't think there's much better either way. And that it was very hard for me to just realize I can't watch the news. the news is not the news. And we're so attached to it and we know it in our heads. But when I started watching independent news on YouTube, it was like, holy cow, the lying is off the chart. And the reason I'm saying this is because I'm not really attached to the outside world. And if it was that hard for me, the hardcore folks that have their favorite, whether it's Sean Hannity or Rachel Maddow, it's heartbreaking. It's almost heartbreaking. And I think that could cause a civil war when the truth really gets out there and it's not just called conspiracy theorist or TikTok nonsense.
Yeah.
This place could implode. In the same way, I think aliens really showing up, some people would just lose it.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I mean, you're speaking my language. As a publicist for a decade, I worked with the press. Oh. So I'm very well aware of, honestly, I think the biggest issue for me is just the news priority that they have. There were so many times that I had a good, positive story and I'd get canceled by a journalist because they were like, well, we got to go cover this car accident that just happened. It's like, who cares? That's not news. But yeah, and even with these Neptune transits, there's a lot of misinformation in the news when that happens. So public, distaste for mainstream media is going to be a theme, a continued theme, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's, here, I'm going to take a break. Hang on, we'll be right back and finish that thought. Hey, you guys, check this out. Quilted Tarot on Kickstarter is going to be a Major Arcana tarot deck based on the cards of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which you know is my baby. I love the Rider-Waite-Smith. That is my living. That is my love. The creator will make a quilt for each of the cards, photograph them, and turn them into a beautiful tarot deck. Major Arcana only decks have many uses, and the guidebook that will come with the deck will have, in addition to explanations for each card, information and spreads you can use with just the Major Arcana. Also, you can do some great one-card readings with this deck, too. To support Quilted Tarot, search for Quilted Tarot on Kickstarter or type in kickstarter.com/projects/Quilted Tarot /Quilted-Tarot. That was hard to say. Probably easier to just go to kickstarter.com and put in Quilted Tarot like I did. So go support this Kickstarter, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot wait to see what this looks like. Fantastic. Quilted Tarot on Kickstarter. Oh, we're on. Okay. I push the button and it doesn't go on, and then I yell at it and I move my hand away and it goes on. I think we always knew the media was bad, but we were like, but Nicole's not lying to me, or Rachel knows more. She's different than the others.
Right.
And I don't even know that some of them may not even know they're getting fed BS.
That's exactly the thing. Like, a lot of my friends are journalists and none of them are bad people. When I worked with individual journalists, they are all honestly just trying to tell the news and do their jobs. But what's dictated as newsworthy is coming from a larger editorial board or the newspaper owner or whatever. And that is where it gets a little shady, I think. Yeah. And so I think the free and independent press that we're supposed to be entitled to is going to be part of this quote unquote civil war, I guess.
Yes. Well, just a side note on that. I know a lot of people that are doing great work on YouTube, and YouTube is messing with them. So we'll see what happens. But I keep thinking there has to be somebody that's going to come out and, there'll be a place for clarity. I mean, I'm sorry, but what we're doing in the Middle East right now that no one is talking about. No wonder they hate us. No one, if they do,
the whole world. Yeah. We're going to keep getting pretty slammed on by other countries at this and it'll become very apparent.
Yeah. Our karma is, as much as it's and I don't want people to think I hate this country because it's the opposite, but it's not the country. It's the Raytheons and I don't know. But anyways.
Yeah.
Okay. So
and the South Oh, I was just going to say the South Node's going through Sagittarius right now, and that's what's being released and let go of. There's a loss with the South Node, and Sagittarius is the United States' identity. It rules our first house.
Oh.
So we are fading right now. But I don't think a lot of the secrets or misinformation will come to light until Pluto gets out of Capricorn for good, which isn't going to really be until 2024, 2025 even. Yeah, so we've got it's just sort of the nature of it. It's digging up a lot of stuff, but there's so much closed door meetings with people in power. That's the nature of Pluto and Capricorn. And at the final degrees of Capricorn, it's like last grasp for power. They don't want to let it go. So yeah. I think we're going to have a lot of information come out once Pluto gets into Aquarius.
Wow. Okay. 2024. That means I got to live until 2024, just in case. Just in case.
Just to see. Yeah.
Yes. I'm going to write on my calendar under 2024. This is your I told you so year. No, I'm just kidding. That's the one thing I don't want to say, but I do.
Well, we may get teasers in 2023. It'll dip into Aquarius in 2023, but then it retrogrades and goes back to Capricorn. So we'll start seeing rumblings in 2023, but 2024 and 2025, huge.
Wow. Okay. So that'll be the start, and then it'll be the confirmed. So I was going to say, I don't know if I want to stick with 2022 or if I want to go to 2024. What do you think? You got more to tell us about 2022, or should we keep going? Because I thought it was like the next 7 years. Did I say this in the beginning?
Yeah, you did. And you're right. Honestly, until 2025, things are really going to be weird. In 2025, even Uranus will switch signs. Neptune switches signs. And those are outer planets that don't switch signs often. So it absolutely indicates serious changes taking place between now and 2025 and 2026 even. But currently, I guess, if you want to stick to a closer range time frame, the nodes are going to move, and they're switching signs in January. So right now, the North node's in Gemini, so we're incorporating more Geminian qualities, and the South node's in Sagittarius. So we're letting go of things that are ruled by Sagittarius. But in January, they switch, and so the North node will be in Taurus, South node in Scorpio. I love this because the South Node in Scorpio, I think, is a really necessary purge on a collective level. We're letting go of things that are not good for us, are toxic even. And instead, we're learning to incorporate Taurian energy, which Taurus rules the earth. It's things that grow out of the ground, right? So we know that we're on the verge of a sustainability crisis. But I don't think we're going to actually have a reckoning with it until the nodes shift into Taurus and Scorpio. Okay. And that's the theme of 2022 and the first half of 2023.
Okay. So hold that thought, because I want to ask, because this is, I always laugh because Taurus is the fixed earth, right? And it's also a lot of dictators. Hitler, they sometimes say, was he Aries or Taurus? But he's Taurus. Saddam Hussein, Lenin, all these dictators is very interesting because there's a show called So You Want to Be a Tyrant, and the first four right across all Taurus, because it's Earth, and obviously who wants to take over the Earth, like that big motorcycle that keeps going by. But I did it interesting because maybe this was someone else's interpretation, but Taurus and Scorpio were supposed to be the most sexual signs. Taurus is supposed to be the best in bed. Scorpio is supposed to be the one that wants to be in bed all the time, right? I think so. I looked up Taurus with Scorpio rising, and you get Einstein. You get all these sort of big thinkers. You get, a lot of people don't know Einstein had an affair with Marilyn Monroe. He was kind of a sexy guy, as much as that hairdo worked against him. But then you switch it and you say Scorpio with Taurus rising, and you get Charles Manson. And you get a lot of criminals. And I remember looking that up and thinking, how fascinating. So when you say those are coming in conjunction, they're coming in the right way. Or what did you say? They're coming in?
Well, they're just coming into focus. So we're letting go of scorpionic energy and embracing Taurian energy. But it's hard because that south node, what we're letting go of is our comfort zone. It's like a crutch we use. So I think there will still be a lot of people trying to hang on to things that are not good for the people of the United States. And embracing the North Node is naturally difficult because it's like if we could all live our North Nodes, we'd be living our best lives. And so it's just hard. We struggle and have to like weasel ourselves into it. So this idea of land is difficult. And that's where I really see like an uprising, like with housing issues.
Yeah.
And this idea of like renters versus homeowners. We've glorified homeowners to death in this nation. And during COVID, it was like, if you had money, you bought land, and tons of people didn't have money. And we're already seeing the problems play out there. But when come January, we're going to have a year and a half of dealing with the housing crisis.
That's what I saw. I thought when I was looking with tarot, which I don't look that much, but I was like, people kept saying, when is the economy going to fail? And I was like, end of 2020, beginning of 2022. You know what else is interesting is a lot of big companies are buying up a ton of land and buying up farms. And some of the land they're buying is like crappy desert land. Like it's very, very suspicious.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Super bizarre.
People should hang on to their land if they can make it through that, shouldn't they?
Oh, absolutely. And it's so funny because some of it's just unconscious. Like that's just how energy works. People just move in these ways. And so many of the very wealthy people that I know or read for are buying land, and they don't know that they're kind of aligning with these energies, but they have the resources and they are choosing to spend it on new land or new real estate. It's so interesting. But yeah, it's like, that's probably the best investment you could make right now, because I think we're going to run out of it. I mean, I know we're not. It's a massive country, but the access to it is going to be very difficult.
So when the market crashes, and I apologize to anyone that's going to be hit hardly that's when we should buy land. If we can. It'll go low, right? It'll go low. Okay.
Yeah. I'm kind of concerned about the upcoming Venus retrograde. Venus doesn't go retrograde that often, and it's going to retrograde December 19th of this year until the end of January 2022, when the nodes change signs, and Venus is money and your valuables, and it's going retrograde on top of Pluto. So all this stuff is really going to come to an economic head. And we're going to seriously have to deal with our resources. And during this time frame, just shortly after Venus goes retrograde, days after, Uranus and Saturn are in a square. And that is a super tense aspect. It's been playing out this entire year. This idea of like old versus new, where have we been too stuck in our ways and need to evolve, but also where is evolution kind of going too far and we need to rein it in. Very, very contradicting energy. And we're going to deal with the economic downfall of it, I think, end of December all the way through January of 2022. That's really going to kickstart a potentially serious economic disaster.
Everyone hear those dates. I said January. I'm changing. December through January and February. Hold on to your hats. Yep. That's what we're getting ready for. Okay. It's August, September. You have 2 months. If you have, I would say, I don't know if maybe neither of us are stock market people, but I was saying if you have extra money, that would be the time to buy. If you don't, I would pull out soon.
Totally. And, I think it's really interesting that cryptocurrency is taken a rise. That very much coincided with Uranus entering Taurus a couple years ago, and it's going to stay there for a while until 2025. And I do think this alternative form of currency is where things are headed. So,
because, I did a show on crypto, and it was almost like my friend Lamont called me and he said, this has I think he said 2 or 3 big drops. And it did drop almost right after that podcast. And again, and now it seems to be on its way up. But that's an interesting one because I'm holding on to every penny I have in cryptocurrency because I think it's going to be the long game. And I noticed that some foreign countries are trying to block it out and stop it, which means it's worth something.
Yeah, that's the Saturn square. Like Uranus is an innovator, and it's innovating our currency. That's Taurus. And Saturn is like rules, regulations, restrictions. And it's in Aquarius, which is trying to innovate. But it's like saying no, put taxes on it, make it more difficult for people to buy into crypto or to use it in a practical way, even.
And they're going to,
so we'll deal with
terrorists are using it. The terrorists are using it, which is probably true. But you know what else? They use money too. They're going to use what they have. Yeah. That's a very interesting one that, I think that one is the one, that's the one we got to hang on to. That's the one I won't sell. So, interesting. Okay. So any other like specific dates you see like that, like February, like what you just set up to February, or any other dates in 2022, since that's the closest?
It's more of these, longer term things playing out right now, versus super specific dates. Like the Venus retrograde is a big one because it doesn't go retrograde often, and it's happening on a very hot point in the zodiac. But otherwise, it's just these larger themes that we're not going to get out of. And like, I think we really need to condition people to know that there's no quick fix here. Like between now and 2025, we are going to continue to deal with serious declines in our institutions and also getting delusional about how we're going to get out of it. Like false prophets sort of coming forward, feeling like, oh, this person's got the great idea and they seem helpful and innocent, but really they'll let us down in a big way. We can't get swept off our feet right now. And for the next few years, we have to stay practical while continuing to seek innovative ways of getting out of this. It's weird. I think one thing to throw a little conspiracy at you, because I know you dig a good conspiracy.
I do.
Is the Illuminati was founded just 2 months before the United States. So I think that's really interesting because obviously it's like the ultimate, the pinnacle of secret society. And Pluto is secret, and Pluto's returning right now, not just for the United States, but then also for the Illuminati. And Illuminati, like initially was positive. It was so opposed to religious influence on society, and it hated abuse of power by the government. It championed free speech. But this, narrative of a new world order coming into play, that was also very Illuminati. And so I'm very interested to see how this Pluto return over the next couple of years plays out in that new world order way. Yes. And if there really is this secret society issue that comes forward. Again, I don't think we'll have that information until Pluto is officially out of Capricorn, but I could see a lot of behind the scenes action taking place right now with that.
That's
so interesting that it was founded 2 months before the United States, right?
Right. Well, wouldn't the Illuminati have been the guys that started the
right? The signed the Declaration of Independence, who also the founding fathers were astrologers themselves. Like this date and time was selected by them. That's pretty much like a universally known thing among astrologers. The actual chart we use for the US varies, but they knew what they were doing.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah. Obviously, at that point, they didn't know anything about Pluto. It hadn't been discovered. So there was no way to talk about that. But now we know where Pluto's at. And it's a hot point. So...
it's funny. And by the way, Ryan, thank you so much. This has been such a great podcast. I was thinking my career has evolved, my comedy career has evolved to a place where now instead of just writing jokes and letting them fit in the act, I'm writing what I want to say and fitting it in the act. And I just think, and I'm the worst at this, and I have to change. We have to start talking to our neighbors. We have to start talking to the people that disagree with us. There's no more shutting down. There's no more blocking, because I am really getting like censorship and the government are the enemy.
Yep. Yeah, this huge like Aquarian age that people keep talking about, which is underway. It's no start and stop with it. But there's this realization that we have been very codependent on government and large institutions that are out of our control and hierarchical systems. And, you know, like if you even see it on social media right now, the idea of like codependency versus interdependence in relationships. This theme is playing out on a micro scale for us in our relationships, but it's also playing out in a macro way for government and societal structures. And we're moving away from codependency on overarching, outdated societal institutions, and we're moving into an interdependence with each other. That's what Aquarius is. It's interconnected systems, and we have to have mutual aid. We have to rely on each other. Open your door for your neighbor. Like all of these ideals that we've kind of always championed are actually going to become necessary in the next few years. So,
yeah, it's funny. I feel that way about medicine. I think healthcare is going, because we had the chance. We had my lefties. We had the Congress. We had the Senate. We got the president. No minimum wage raise that could have changed things. No Medicare for all. Those two things alone would have changed everything. The homeless problem in LA, everything could have just shifted on those two things. And of course, they would have got some pushback from people that didn't believe in it. But right now, whatever we have now is failing. And my prediction is healthcare is going to get so expensive and crazy that people are going to start going to herbalists. They're going to start going to medical mediums. They're going to start going to naturopaths, who actually are a little expensive. But I think, and they're going to find that they work.
Exactly. And that's part of this North Node in Taurus thing. It's like herbalists will come forward. People who are working with their hands and in very useful, practical ways with the earth are going to be of service to society on a large end. For sure. I think that's huge. I also think like the Aquarius energy is science, technology, and integrating spirituality with that.
Yeah.
And so I think we'll see a lot of really innovative stuff like laser technology, sound healing, interesting things for healing or health matters that we don't have right now.
Right.
But it's going to have an exclusivity to it. Not everybody's going to be able to afford these like fancy machines.
Yeah. That's such an interesting one. You know, it's like, I remember watching a show, I don't know if it was on History or Discovery, about black widows and how hard it is to make their anti-venom, and these people that got bit with them. And one guy used to go out and just blast them. He'd go out in Arizona in the middle of the night to find them just to kill him because he got so sick from one. And the other day, my friend called me and she goes, I got bit by a black widow. And I was like, oh my God, what did you do? Because you can only take the anti-venom once. And she was like, oh, you didn't know? Lavender oil negates black widow venom. She put lavender.
What?
I know. She put lavender oil on the bite and it's done.
Wow. I mean, yeah, we just don't believe in this stuff. We've really created an over-reliance on some crappy things that are definitely going downhill, for sure. I mean, big pharma is this Capricorn energy. So we're going to be relying on our local people way more.
Yes. It's so funny. You're in LA. You have the same motorcycle like the guy that went.
I do. Torture.
That is the only thing about LA I don't like, is it's never really quiet. Or where I live is never.
Ever.
But I love LA. I love it. So,
I do too.
Or else if I go to Mexico, I'll bring you with me, Ryan.
Oh, I would love it. I love Mexico. Yes.
All right. Oh God, I adore you. I am so happy that we had a reading there. Whatever. Tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me at ryansastrology.com, Ryan with an S. Yeah, that's basically it. My socials on there. You can book a reading through there. Look forward to talking to anybody. I love the natal chart readings. That's sort of my forte. So let's change your life.
It's great. All right. Well, thank you, Ryan, and thank you everybody for listening. I have to ask. I have to beg my people for this. If you guys could leave me a review, most of my reviews, especially on Apple Podcasts, are good. But like one person wrote, "Yawn. This podcast got so boring," and I don't mind it. Please be honest, but it comes up every time in my face. Every time I punch on my home, and I'm like, maybe we could just get two of them to move it back a little bit. So if you could leave me a little review, that would be great. I know people are great, but the numbers are so. People are mostly nice. It's like one, but I was like, I just don't want that in my face right now.
Yeah.
I know. But thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.